If you're sitting there right now refreshing your visa application portal for the 100th time today, I need you to stop. Just stop. Because what I'm about to tell you is going to change the way you think about Australian visa processing times forever. It's January 2026, and thousands of people just like you are trapped in a nightmare of uncertainty, checking their emails at midnight, calculating timelines on scraps of paper, and slowly losing their minds waiting for a decision that feels like it's never going to come. And here's the truth nobody wants to tell you. The processing times you're reading online, they're not the whole story. They're not even half the story. And if you don't understand what's really happening inside the Department of Home Affairs right now, you're going to drive yourself crazy waiting for answers that might not come the way you expect them to. Let me paint you a picture. It's 2 a.m. You can't sleep. You grab your phone. You open that government website. You stare at those processing time ranges. 12 to 29 days, 81 days to 7 months, 10 months to 28 months. And you're sitting there thinking, which end of that range am I going to be on? Am I going to be the lucky one who gets processed in weeks, or am I going to be the person waiting for years? And that's when the anxiety really kicks in, because those numbers don't tell you anything about your specific situation. They don't tell you where you are in the queue. They don't tell you if your application is sitting on someone's desk right now or buried under 10,000 other files. They don't tell you if the officer reviewing your case is having a good day or a terrible one. And they definitely don't tell you that in January 2026, the entire system is operating under pressures that most applicants don't even know exist. I'm here with AUSSIE Visa and Immigration, and we're not here to give you the sanitized version of how visa processing works. We're here to give you the reality, the uncomfortable, frustrating, sometimes infuriating reality of what's actually happening with Australian visa applications right now. And if you're in the middle of this process, if you're waiting for a decision that's controlling your entire life, then you need to understand what you're really up against. So let's go back to the beginning. Let's talk about why January 2026 is not just another month in the visa processing calendar. January is when everything collides. You've got holiday backlogs from December when half the department was on leave and applications were piling up with nobody to process them. You've got New Year policy adjustments because the Australian government loves to change immigration rules right when a new year starts, which means officers have to learn new procedures while they're trying to clear the backlog. And then you've got the fresh wave of applications from everyone who spent Christmas thinking, I'll apply after the holidays, not realizing that millions of other people had the exact same plan. So when you check processing times in January, don't picture some clean, organized system humming along efficiently. Picture a desk buried under files. Picture more files being dropped on that desk every single hour. Picture officers trying to work through mountains of applications while new policies are being implemented and holiday absences are still being covered. That's the reality of January processing. Now let's break down what's actually happening with different visa categories, because not all visas are created equal, and not all processing times are what they seem. Let's start with the temporary visas, the ones everyone thinks are quick and easy. Visitor visa subclass 600, the government says 75% of applications are processed in about 20 days, 90% within 29 days. Sounds great, right? Sounds like if you apply today, you'll have your answer before you've even finished planning your trip, and for some people that's exactly what happens. They apply, they wait a couple of weeks, they get approved, they book their flights. Everything works perfectly, but here's what they don't tell you. That 20 to 29 day range assumes everything about your application is straightforward. It assumes you provided every single document correctly. It assumes there are no red flags in your travel history. It assumes you're from a country that doesn't require extra security checks. It assumes your application doesn't get randomly selected for additional verification. Because yes, that happens. Applications get pulled for extra scrutiny completely at random sometimes. And suddenly your 2-week wait becomes a 2-month wait and nobody tells you why. And if you're from certain countries, you might qualify for an electronic travel authority that gets processed in under a day. Less time than it takes to cook breakfast. But don't get excited yet, because that only applies to specific nationalities, and if you're not on that list, you're back to the regular processing queue with everyone else. The lesson here: don't book your flights until you have that visa approval in your hand, because processing times are averages, not promises. Now let's move to the temporary skilled and work visas, because this is where things get really interesting. Australia recently shook up its skilled visa framework. They promised faster processing, especially for critical skills roles. They talked about streamlining the system, reducing wait times, making it easier for skilled workers to come to Australia and fill labor shortages. And on paper, it sounds fantastic. Some priority streams are getting processed in 14 to 68 days. That's incredibly fast for a work visa. But here's the reality. It's a mixed bag. Some applications fly through in weeks. Others are taking 81 days to 7 months or longer. And the difference isn't always clear. Two people with similar qualifications applying for similar roles can have completely different processing experiences, and nobody can tell them why. Because your application doesn't sit politely in line waiting its turn, it gets sorted, it gets triaged. It gets moved, paused, reviewed, escalated, or quietly ignored depending on how closely it matches what Australia wants right now, in this specific moment, in this specific month, in January 2026. The system is not asking who applied first. It's asking who solves a problem. If your occupation is on the critical skills list, if you're applying for a role in a regional area that desperately needs workers, if your profile matches the government's current immigration priorities, your application moves. If it doesn't, you wait. And that's the part nobody wants to talk about, because it means that processing times aren't just about how long it takes to review an application. They're about whether the government has a reason to prioritize yours over the thousands of others sitting in the queue. And then we get to permanent visas. The major leagues. The ones that can change your entire life. Skilled permanent visas like subclass 189, 190, and 491. These are the visas that people dream about, the ones that lead to permanent residency, the ones that mean you can build a real future in Australia. And the processing times? 10 months to 28 months for the majority of applications, and it can go even higher depending on the subclass and how many people are in the queue ahead of you. 10 months to 28 months. Let that sink in. That's 1 to 2.5 years of your life spent waiting. 1 to 2.5 years of uncertainty. 1 to 2.5 years of not being able to make major life decisions because you don't know if you're going to be living in Australia or somewhere else. And why does it take so long? Because the department checks everything. Your occupation, your qualifications, your work experience, your health, your character, your police clearances from every country you've lived in. They verify every single detail of your application, and if anything doesn't match up, if any document is missing or unclear, your application gets delayed while they request more information. Partner visas are another level entirely. Onshore partner visas are taking 9 to 23 months for most applicants. Offshore applications can take even longer, and if you're applying for a prospective marriage visa subclass 300, you're looking at 12 to 23 months. Think about that. You're in love. You want to be with your partner. You want to build a life together, and the Australian government is asking you to wait up to 2 years to prove that your relationship is genuine. 2 years of living apart or living in limbo. 2 years of not being able to work legally or access services. 2 years of your life on hold because the system needs time to process your application. And the worst part, some people get approved in 9 months, others wait the full 23, and there's no way to know which category you're going to fall into until it happens. So why do processing times fluctuate so wildly? Why does one person get approved in 3 weeks while someone with an almost identical application waits 3 months? Let me break down the real reasons, the ones that go beyond the official explanations. First, volume of applications. More applications mean longer processing times. That's basic math, but it's not distributed evenly. Some visa categories are more popular than others, and if you happen to apply for a visa that's experiencing a surge in applications, you're going to wait longer through no fault of your own. Second, completeness of documents. If you submit an incomplete application, it doesn't just slow you down a bit, it kicks you out of the decision-ready lane entirely. Your file gets set aside, it gets put in the follow-up pile, and by the time you provide the missing documents, dozens or hundreds of other applications have moved ahead of yours. Third, background health and character checks. If you've lived in multiple countries, if you've traveled extensively, if there's anything in your background that requires additional verification, your processing time increases. And sometimes these checks are out of the department's hands entirely. They're waiting on police certificates from other countries. They're waiting on health results. They're waiting on security clearances from other agencies. And while they're waiting, your application sits in limbo. Fourth, Government priorities that change monthly. This is the big one that nobody talks about. The Australian government's immigration priorities shift constantly based on economic conditions, labor market needs, political pressures, and policy changes. What was a priority occupation last month might not be this month. What was fast-tracked last quarter might be slowed down this quarter. And your application's processing time depends not just on when you applied, but on whether your profile matches what Australia needs at this exact moment in time. So, yes, your friend might get approved in 3 weeks while you wait 3 months, and it could just be random luck plus good documentation plus timing plus a dozen other factors that nobody can control or predict. Comparing timelines is emotionally understandable and strategically useless. You cannot speed up processing times by worrying harder. You cannot refresh the portal into submission. You cannot email your way to the front of the line unless something has genuinely gone wrong. And migration agents, contrary to popular belief, do not have a secret please hurry button hidden somewhere. What you can control is readiness. January 2026 is not taking incomplete applications lightly. Missing documents don't just delay you, they reset your momentum completely. Health checks, police certificates, employer documents, relationship evidence, if any of these are requested and you don't provide them quickly and correctly, your application stops moving. So if you're applying in January, the best strategy is boring excellence. Over-prepare. Double-check everything. Triple-check. Assume the officer reviewing your application is tired, overworked, and dealing with hundreds of other files. Make their life easy. Give them a complete, well-organized application that doesn't require follow-up, because every time they have to contact you for more information, that's another delay, another week or month added to your processing time. Now let's flip the perspective, because this is going to change how you think about waiting. Instead of asking, why is my visa taking so long, ask, what incentive does the system have to finalize mine right now? That question changes everything. If your application helps meet a labor shortage, if it supports regional retention, if it aligns with current policy direction, if it resolves an administrative target, it moves. If it doesn't, it waits. January is when that logic is most visible because everything slows just enough for patterns to show. The applications that get processed quickly in January are the ones that serve a clear government purpose. The ones that wait are the ones that are technically valid but not strategically important to Australia's current immigration goals. So what should you actually do in January 2026 while you're waiting? First, stop expecting magic. January is not when the system clears everything overnight. The backlog from December is real. The policy adjustments are real. The surge in new applications is real. Expecting your visa to be processed at the fastest possible time in the fastest possible month is setting yourself up for disappointment. Second, don't panic at silence. Silence in January often means your file is sitting safely in the queue, not that it's been rejected or forgotten. No news is not bad news. It's just no news. The system is slow, but it does move. Your application will get processed. It just might not be on your preferred timeline. Third, only follow up when it makes sense. If you're outside the standard processing times, if there's been a significant change in your circumstances, if there's a genuine error in your application, then yes, contact the department. But don't follow up based on vibes and anxiety. Don't send emails every week asking for updates when you're still within normal processing times, because every unnecessary inquiry takes officer time away from actually processing applications, including potentially yours. And finally, protect your mental health. This is the most important one. Visa waiting can consume your entire personality if you let it. It can take over your thoughts, your conversations, your ability to enjoy anything else in your life. Don't let a processing dashboard decide whether you have a good week or a terrible week. Find ways to distract yourself. Focus on things you can control. Live your life while you're waiting, because the waiting might be long and you cannot put everything on hold for months or years waiting for a decision. Here's the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. Australia's visa system in January is just honest about what it prioritizes. Speed is a side effect, not a promise. The government has immigration goals, economic goals, political goals, and your application gets processed based on how well it aligns with those goals, not based on how urgently you need an answer. That doesn't mean the system is broken. It doesn't mean it's unfair. It just means it operates on a different logic than individual applicants would prefer. And if you understand that, if you accept that, you're already ahead of most people refreshing their inbox right now, hoping for a miracle. The Department of Home Affairs is not powered by spreadsheets or a single overworked officer named Steve, even though sometimes it feels that way. It's powered by policy, priorities, and processes that most applicants never see. Your application is not sitting on someone's desk being deliberately ignored. It's moving through a system that handles hundreds of thousands of applications every year, and that system is doing its best to balance speed, accuracy, security, and policy compliance all at the same time. Does it always work perfectly? No. Do applications sometimes fall through the cracks? Yes. Do processing times sometimes blow out beyond what anyone expected? Absolutely. But the system does move. Applications do get processed. Decisions do get made. It just happens on the department's timeline, not yours. So if you're watching this video because you're in the middle of the waiting process, because you're anxious and frustrated and desperate for answers, I want you to hear this. Your feelings are valid. Waiting is hard. Uncertainty is torture. Not knowing when you'll get a decision that affects your entire future is one of the most stressful experiences a person can go through. But you're not alone. Thousands of people are going through exactly what you're going through right now. Thousands of people are checking their emails at midnight, calculating timelines, trying to plan their lives around a decision that hasn't come yet, and most of them will get through this. Most applications get approved eventually. Most people waiting right now will get the answer they're hoping for. It just takes time, and sometimes it takes more time than anyone wants. If this video helped you understand what's really happening with visa processing times in January 2026, if it helped you feel slightly less insane about the waiting process, then share it with someone else who needs to hear this. Because the more people understand how this system actually works, the better equipped they are to navigate it without losing their minds. And if you're still waiting for your decision, hang in there. The system moves slowly, but it does move. Your application is in there somewhere. It's being processed. It will get decided. Just not always when you're watching. Not always when you're refreshing that portal for the 100th time. But it will happen. Keep your documents ready. Keep your information up to date, and try to live your life while you're waiting, because the waiting is part of the journey, not the end of it. This is Aussie Visa and Immigration, and we're here to give you the truth about Australian immigration, even when that truth is uncomfortable, even when it's not what you want to hear. Because you deserve to know what you're really dealing with. You deserve to understand the system you're navigating, and you deserve to get through this process with your sanity intact. Stay strong, stay prepared, and remember that thousands of people before you have waited and succeeded. You can too.